Thank you for joining us for our Over the Top with Jocie's Cosmetology School, e-learning from Summit Salon, Lessons 4 and 5. Top 20 Star Power. Our emotional energy has an enormous influence on the experience our guests have when they're sitting in our chair. Guests love buying services and products from stylists who radiate top 20 star power. The more positive our energy, the more money our guests are willing to spend, and the greater the explosion in our take-home pay. Nothing turns off the willingness of a guest to spend faster than the negative energy of a bottom 80. In other words, the power of our own emotional energy is always either making us or costing us a lot of money. We must develop top 20 star power when learning to do great hair. What's the difference between days when everything in the salon is driving you crazy versus days when nothing bothers you and your positive energy lasts all day? The biggest difference between a good and bad day is all about how much of our star power is coming through. At the center of the power wheel is the top 20 star that represents the unlimited positive energy we possess, called top 20 star power. It's made up of the positive thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and feelings we have about ourselves. Another name is our top self. As we become more aware of our star power, our self-image improves and we feel greater self-esteem, self-worth, and self-confidence. As we learn how to turn on, turn up, and turn loose the positive energy of our star power, we become a great asset to everyone around us. We become an energizer and encourager. We unleash a remarkable ability to inspire positive change and bring new life to any relationship in which we're involved. The enthusiasm, joy, and lightheartedness we radiate attract good things to us and everyone around us. We become more of our top self. We can use a vertical line, such as a yardstick, to measure the quality and usefulness of our thinking. The higher up we go into our blue top self, the clearer, more positive, and useful our thoughts and beliefs become. This is top 20 thinking. The lower we go into red bottom 80 self, or BS, the gloomier, more negative, and useless our thoughts and beliefs are. This is bottom 80 thinking. When we're over the line, our thinking is working for us much better than when we are under the line. As we fluctuate between being over and under the line, it's perfectly normal to have highs and lows. But if we want to bring out more of our top 20 self and our star power qualities, we must become skillful at recognizing and overcoming our red bottom 80 thinking. The frame gives us a simple explanation of the powerful role of top 20 and bottom 80 thinking and plays a determination in our financial success and the overall quality of life. Developing star power of our top 20 self is about knowing that our thinking is connected to what we see, what we feel, what we do, and what we get. Here's how the process works. Our thinking determines what we see. What we see determines how we feel. How we feel determines what we do. And what we do determines what we get. When we combine over and under the line with the frame, we have a better understanding of what happens to our thinking when we fall under the line to bottom 80 or jump over the line to top 20. When we're over the line, our thinking is top 20 blue. We see and feel positive about ourselves. We respond by doing positive things, and as a result, get a prosperous career and extraordinary life. The opposite is also true. Whenever we are under the line, our thinking automatically goes to bottom 80 red. We see and feel negative about ourselves and our life. We react by doing negative things. As a result, we get a troubled life filled with chaos, drama, and scarcity. Being over or under the line isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It's a human thing. But there is a big difference between living in blue top self and visiting red bottom self, as opposed to living in BS and visiting TS. On the other hand, if our thinking is mostly gloomy and negative, chances are pretty good we live in BS and visit TS. If our thinking is clear and positive most of the time, we live in TS and visit BS. The key to tapping into the positive energy of our top 20 star power is to develop the awareness and skills to live in TS even when conditions aren't favorable. The remarkable process of name, claim, tame is used to break out of living in bottom 80 and move into top 20. Practicing the process of name, claim, tame enables us to further develop the star power in our top self. It's made of 3 crucial parts, and while each part has its own unique purpose, when all 3 parts are working as one, they become an amazing force of positive change. Naming is about having the awareness to see our own negative thinking and realizing how it's getting in the way of our greater success. Naming is the ability to see when we're in BS. What we can see, we can control. What we can't see controls us. Naming our negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors means waking up and getting honest with ourselves. Whatever we can name, we can change. Most of our ability to break out of BS comes from having the courage to name it. The moment we name our BS habits, the remarkable process of name, claim, tame is set in motion and begins changing us for the better. Claiming is about accepting personal responsibility for changing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. What we accept personal responsibility for, we can change for the better. To blame is to deny responsibility for being in our BS or rationalize it by finding fault with others, then blasting them for upsetting us. To shame is to beat ourselves up for the mistakes and messes we've made. Nothing ruins our success faster than blaming and shaming. We must realize dropping into BS comes with life, and that it isn't necessary to blame others or shame ourselves. We can use claiming to bypass blaming and shaming and go right to taming. Taming is all about the actions we must take to break out of our BS. While naming and claiming are important, they're useless unless we are willing to make the commitment to take those actions until they become a habit. What we take action on, we can change for good. Studies tell us it takes 21 days of new actions to change a habit. The self-defeating habit of our bottom self require at least 21 days of taming actions to change them. Having an awareness of what can trigger our BS is an important part of naming, claiming, and taming. Triggers are situations or persons that activate negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Think of the last time you were having a good day and something happened that made you immediately start thinking, feeling, and reacting in negative ways. That thing that happened is probably a trigger of yours. When we react negatively to a trigger, we empower it to control us. Along with triggers, we must also use our awareness to see what our indicators are. Indicators are feelings or reactions that tell us we have dropped into BS. Using the process of name, claim, tame to name, claim, and tame our triggers and indicators is a giant step towards breaking out of our BS and enjoying greater financial success. Next, we have negative thought circles. They're self-defeating thinking habits that plague us when we drop into BS. A thought circle is always triggered by one negative thought, which leads to another negative thought and another, like a snowball getting larger and larger as it rolls down a hill. As our thought circle gets bigger and bigger with each negative thought, we take a nosedive deeper and deeper into BS. Thought circles get triggered when it sounds like guests don't like, trust, or respect us. They may ask us a simple question like, "How long have you been in the business?" We immediately jump to conclusions, make ourselves nervous, lose our self-confidence, and become overwhelmed, all because of one question. Our thought circle is off and running. We freak ourselves out by our own negative thought circles and sabotage our credibility with guests. As a result, we treat them in ways that make them dislike us, ruining our chance of getting them to come back. So how long have you been in the business? How rude. She obviously doesn't like me and doesn't think I know what I'm doing. She'll hate what I do and not come back. I have to get her out of here now. The best way to break up negative thought circles is to get better at naming, claiming, and taming them. The sooner we can catch ourselves in a negative thought circle, the easier it is to stop it. A simple way to stop them is to use the stop not now technique. Whenever we catch ourselves beginning a negative thought circle, say stop. This is a thought circle, not now. As we get better at breaking up negative thought circles, more of our star power shines through. Our full attention then goes to the person in front of us, which brings more good into our lives. Have you ever seen a tornado move? There's always a cow, a fence, and a pickup truck flying across the road. The destructive force of a tornado occurs because of its tremendous energy. It wreaks havoc on everything in its path. In the salon, when someone is in the midst of a BS thought circle, they can easily start complaining to those around them. A common reaction to someone else's complaining is to agree with it and then adding our own complaining. This kind of reaction usually comes from a need to be supported, liked, and accepted by others. A tornado begins to form, and the destructive energy has the power to draw innocent bystanders into the emotional chaos and drama. Tornadoes have tremendous power to negatively influence an entire group and their culture. A positive person or group tends to influence others in positive ways. A negative person or group tends to influence others in negative ways. Energy is contagious, so be careful what you catch. The process of name, claim, and tame can help us in two ways. It helps us avoid getting dragged into a tornado, and it also helps us break the destructive BS habit of being a tornado starter. Tornado watch. Know where conditions are right for producing tornadoes. Be aware of where tornadoes can occur. Break room, front desk, outside of the salon, coffee shop, restaurants, cell phones, texts, and emails. Tornado warning. A funnel cloud has actually been sighted. Indicators that a tornado is forming. Complaining, criticizing, nitpicking, blaming, arguing, bad-mouthing, gossiping. Tornado touchdown. The twister has hit the ground. Before you know it, you are in it and have become an active participant. Sometimes we find ourselves in the middle of a swirling tornado without even knowing how we got there. We must develop the awareness to identify tornadoes quickly to avoid being pulled into them. Whenever approaching a group where it looks and sounds like a tornado is being spawned, say to yourself, uh-oh, it looks like a tornado is going on over there. I better watch out. Getting better at spotting tornadoes before we walk into them empowers us with the ability to protect ourselves from their destructive energy. Claiming is about accepting personal responsibility for either starting tornadoes or adding our negative energy to an existing tornado. Accepting personal responsibility for our part in tornadoes without shaming ourselves or blaming others empowers us to change for the better. The following taming actions are something we must become skillful at in order to protect ourselves from tornadoes. Listen without agreeing or judging. There's a big difference between agreeing and disagreeing with another person's emotional drama or simply listening to it with no need to jump in with opinions or judgments. It is possible to listen without agreeing or disagreeing. Respond by saying, I hear you. Sometimes engaging in tornadoes is the social activity in groups we hang out with. Those situations, many of us feel the pressure to either participate or run the risk of being the subject of ridicule and rejection. So what do you think? A safe and effective response is to simply say, I hear you. By saying I hear you, we are acknowledging what another person has experienced without being drawn into the tornado ourselves. We can observe the tornado and not be damaged by it or harm others. We can also stop being a tornado starter. We can easily develop a reputation of being a tornado starter. It becomes part of our identity within our group, and people come to expect it from us. While it may appear to gain us status within the group, in the long run it is self-destructive and keeps our star power from developing and sabotages our success. That's why it's important to break the BS habit of being a tornado starter. Leave the tornado scene. I hear you is a highly effective response to a tornado. However, if the tornado persists in its seek and destroy mission, we may need to repeat I hear you a second time or simply get up and walk away. Tornadoes are extremely dangerous. If certain friends or the group we hang out with are dominated by tornadoes, we may need to take more drastic measures to protect ourselves. We can do this by expanding our social circle, limiting our time with tornado-dominated groups, or terminating some relationships. The more friends we have and groups we are associated with, the less influence any individual or particular group will have on us. Having a bigger social circle always gives us more options. Here are some ideas for expanding your social circle. Get involved in new activities. Make good impressions on peers or classmates. Step outside your comfort zone by setting a goal to meet new people. And don't worry about other people's opinions of you. If certain friends in our lives are having too much negative influence on us, we can limit the time we spend with them. A good way of limiting our availability is by making other plans. Terminate the relationship. Sometimes it's necessary. When it is time to end it, we may have tried talking about the problem, or we may have tried being a positive influence, but it's not getting any better. If this relationship continues to drag us into tornadoes, it may be time to terminate it. Whenever a relationship is influencing us in a negative direction, consider ending it. Naming, claiming, and taming our tornadoes does not mean we should never share our negative feelings with family or friends. We can get perspective and help when we share our feelings and concerns in a healthy way. Using the remarkable process to name, claim, and tame tornadoes empowers us with the star power to have better relationships and a more successful career. There are times when we fall into BS, lose our confidence, and get filled with doubt. We become afraid we don't have enough strength or intelligence to make our dreams come true, and we start thinking or saying negative things about ourselves. I'm never going to be able to learn to do this. I'm not as good as the rest of the people here. Many of us have the BS habit of negative self-talk, which is a defeating tendency of thinking and talking about ourselves negatively. This BS habit keeps us stuck in bottom 80 and is a major obstacle to discovering and developing our top 20 star power. The frame gives us a keen awareness of the destructive force of negative self-talk. When we want greater financial success in our life, we must break the habit of negative self-talk. When I see myself as not being good enough, I feel depressed, annoyed, or overwhelmed. I get a life that is, I do myself harm by thinking and talking negatively about myself, and I get a life that is increasingly miserable. Once again, we can use the process of name, claim, and tame to help us break the BS habit of thinking and talking about ourselves in ways that limit our success. The most important letter in the alphabet is the letter I, because whatever we say after I is what we become. Therefore, the first thing we must do to stop negative self-talk is become aware of the bad I. Anytime the letter I is followed by a negative statement, we are using the bad I. To break the habit of negative self-talk, we must develop awareness to see when we're using it. While there are different kinds of bad I's, they all have one thing in common. They keep us from feeling good and having a great life. Getting skillful at identifying when we are using a bad eye empowers us to stop its destructive force. There's the angry eye, the depressed bad eye, and the worried bad eye. I'm not as good as the rest of the people here. I just can't stay focused. I'm never going to be able to do this. I've tried stuff like this before and I just couldn't do it. I'm not smart enough. I guess it's just the way I am. I am the only one who does anything around here and I'm sick of it. Claiming negative self-talk is about admitting that we get in our own way of progress more than anyone else by belittling everything about ourselves. Accepting responsibility for changing our own negative self-talk unleashes the power in us to change for the better. All it takes to start taming is one good eye. Many of us have been harshly criticized by others and led to believe we are not good enough, smart enough, strong enough, nor worthy enough to have an extraordinary life. Consequently, we end up spending far too much time feeling bad about who we are, denying or devaluing our talents, achievements, or desires, and becoming extremely hard on ourselves. The truth is, we are good enough, smart enough, strong enough, and worthy enough to have an extraordinary life. This is our true self or our good eye. Start believing in and acknowledging our good eye. The more empowered we become to change our life for the better and have a greater life. I deserve a good life. I have more than enough intelligence. I can learn how to do this. I like myself. I have the strength I need to get through this. I will get through this. Many of our bad eyes have come from negative OPOs, which is other people's opinions of us. Stylists stuck in bottom 80 think OPOs are so important they're willing to let them determine their actions. It's important to be open to feedback because it can help us grow. When feedback is filled with negative opinions and judgments, we need to remind ourselves that OPOs of us are none of our business. There's nothing more vital to our emotional and financial health than to ignore, disregard, and detach from the OPOs of those hell-bent on getting us to believe that we lack the intelligence and strength to have an extraordinary life. We must believe in our good eye and hang out with people who encourage us with positive energy. The only opinion we should concern ourselves with is the good opinion we have of ourselves and others. As we stop judging ourselves, other people and those who judge us will be less concerned with what other people are thinking about us and more interested in expressing our star power in extraordinary ways that make our lives better. The following are common examples of how we pop opportunities for greater income when we fall into bottom 80 star power. The storm starter never misses an opportunity to start an emotional tornado by spreading negative energy throughout the salon. The storm chaser would never start a tornado, but can't resist the lure to participate in the emotional drama and chaos of a tornado. Runaway brain, staying awake all night long, worrying about problems, believing the light at the end of the tunnel is actually a train coming right at us. The OPO collector, have a wide collection of negative OPOs and are influenced by OPOs. Cyclops, a negative point of view that only sees what's wrong, bad, or incorrect. Queen of BS, has all the dirt on everybody and uses the power of drama to rule over the kingdom of BS. Star Power Police, those who think it's their job to point out who's in top 20 and who's stuck in bottom 80. Which of these power poppers can you relate to most? How does the one you chose pop opportunities for building your star power? Getting skillful at the process of name, claim, and tame empowers us to break out of BS by stopping thought circles sooner, watching out for and protecting ourselves from tornadoes, overcoming the habit of negative self-talk, and not listening to OPOs. If we're serious about achieving dramatic and sudden increases in our personal income, we must be absolutely willing to show more of our top self by developing more of our star power. As we begin making these changes, more of our top 20 star power bursts forth and is revealed and developed into positive characteristics called star qualities. Enthusiastic, lively interest. Creative, inventive, full of ideas. Self-confident, belief in oneself. Responsible, willing to be accountable. Focused on work at hand. And self-disciplined, having self-control. Star power is the positive thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and feelings we have about ourselves. And it has an enormous influence on the experience our guests have with us. Our star power is the #1 predictor of our greater financial success or failure because the quality of our emotional energy influences every part of our life. Contrary to popular belief, our star power can be developed and our negative self-defeating habits can be overcome. As we discover and develop the positive energy of our star power, every aspect of our life explodes in prosperous and remarkable ways. We become an inspiration to everyone around us and a vision of what's possible when people have the willingness to step up and change for the better. We become top 20. Time for action. What does it feel like to live in bottom 80? What does it feel like to live in top 20? Bring to mind a bad habit you are willing to name, claim, and tame. Now name the habit. Describe how you will claim personal responsibility for this habit. Describe the courageous actions you will take to tame it. What triggers your BS? What are some indicators that your BS has been triggered? How do you feel? What do you say? How do you act? How is your BS keeping you from making more money? Write down a trigger. How does your thought circle play out? Where in your life do tornadoes start to form? When do you find yourself starting tornadoes? Bring to mind the last tornado you found yourself in. Which taming action would have helped? Consider the negative influences in your social life. Do you need to expand your friendships? Limit your time with someone? Or terminate a relationship? What are some bad eyes you have said about yourself? What are negative OPOs that you need to make none of your business? What is a good eye that would help you overcome these bad eyes or OPOs? Write some good eyes about your fellow students. Now write some good eyes about yourself. When I'm under the line in bottom 80, I see, I feel, I do, and I get. Versus when I'm over the line in top 20, I see, I feel, I do, and I get. What are some star qualities you want more of? This concludes lesson 4. Please continue for lesson 5. Bonding. Gaining credibility quickly with guests is a major factor in achieving dramatic and sudden jumps in personal income. Bonding is our first real opportunity to start building credibility by making positive and lasting first impressions. Positive first impressions make our guests feel great about the money they're going to be spending on our services and products, which leads to more repeat and referral business. This is why becoming highly skilled at Top 20 Bonding is so important. Have you ever gone out and been freaked out by what you saw? Oh my, what did I get myself into? Not another coupon clipping cheapskate. Remember, guests judge us just as quickly as we judge them. How you handle this relationship is called Top 20 Bonding. It's the first step of the power wheel and is best defined as building credibility and rapport with our guests. Credibility and rapport is the ability to get our guests to like, trust, and respect us. Bonding is the process of taking a sometimes anxious, fearful, belligerent, or confused guest and creating confidence in that guest that we know what we're doing. Through the process of bonding, the guest learns to feel safe, comfortable, and trusting. The credibility and rapport we develop with a guest will lead to more sales, rebooks, and referrals, as well as making the guest feel better about the time and money spent with us. Bonding plays a much bigger role in building a full book because guests don't return to stylists whom they don't like, trust, or respect. The quality of the attitude and feelings we have as we meet and greet our guests will determine how successful we are at bonding with them. When we are in top 20 blue and the positive energy of our star power is coming through us, our guests pick up on our enthusiasm and the bonding process gets off to an excellent start. When we drop into bottom 80 red and the negative energy of our BS comes through, we become self-centered, judgmental, and unable to establish credibility. Our chances of bonding go out the window. Whenever we go to see a doctor or dentist for the first time, we experience a certain amount of tension. Now imagine what it's like for a new guest meeting us for the first time. Many guests have learned the hard way that we have the power to drastically alter how they look and feel. This is why they want to know that they will be safe in our hands. Whether we're afraid of it or not, the moment we come into contact with our guest, we are making a first impression. The first impression can be either a positive or negative one. Positive impressions cause prosperous results, while negative impressions cause disastrous results. When we make negative first impressions, guest tension goes up, and it takes a mountain of time and energy to reduce it. When the impressions we make are positive, guest tension is quickly reduced, we bond with them, and they begin taking direction from us. So how long do you think it takes to make a first impression? If you said 10 seconds, you're right. 10 seconds from the time guests see us, they have an impression of who we are. As new guests arrive, they are naturally nervous. A top 20 attitude gives us the power to put guests at ease, while a bottom 80 attitude sends them into a state of panic. The faster we can get guests to relax, the easier it is to get them to buy services and products from us. We do this by developing the ability to reduce their tension quickly. Stylists stuck in bottom 80 are untrained in bonding and as a result are unaware of the fears that first-time guests experience. Consequently, they're unskilled at reducing guest tension and many times make it worse. Most new guests come in nervous, and after a few seconds with the bottom 80 bonder, their anxiety goes through the roof. When our guest tension is high, they can't hear our great ideas because they're unable to relax. Just as guests can have negative judgment of us from the impression we make, we can have negative judgments of them. And nothing kills our emotional energy and credibility with guests faster than our BS habit of making negative judgments about first-time guests. Oh no. Look at her. What a mess. What am I going to do with that? It's our rugrat. I hate doing kids. Little brats never sit still. Look at that old bat. She's older than dirt. I hate old people. Look at that guy. He looks like a perv. Another coupon clipper. All I get are bargain hunters. She looks like a real... We must always remember that our guest's impression of us is heavily influenced by our judgment of them. When our judgment is negative, they pick up on our negative energy, which causes them to have a negative impression of us. All negative judgments are highly contagious, and as our new guest catches ours, they will immediately have similar judgments of us. Our level of skillfulness at guest communication will always determine how successful we are at reducing tension, making positive first impressions, and establishing credibility with guests. At first glance, this looks easy, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. Did you know we cannot not communicate? We cannot not impress. Even if we just stand there and say nothing, we're saying something. How can that be? What could a person just standing there being quiet possibly be saying? any number of things, from I'm nervous, overwhelmed, and scared to death of you, to I'm irritated, annoyed, and can't wait to get rid of you, to I'm confident, friendly, and happy to meet you. Top 20s are highly skilled in making lasting positive impressions by using the 3 kinds of guest communication: verbal, extraverbal, and nonverbal. While all 3 combine to create guest communication, each one is effective in varying degrees. Verbal communication makes up 5% of the impression we make. The skillful use of descriptive and exciting words that create a mental picture can quickly raise guest interest. Top 20s are always expanding and refining their vocabulary with their words that are kind, friendly, and gracious, as well as great words that best describe the services and products they offer. In order to bond with guests, we must learn to create interesting conversations with purpose by choosing meaningful words that our guests understand. The guest's name, bottom 80s forget or don't use it correctly, while top 20s use it correctly and often. The vocabulary of a bottom 80 is slang or vulgar, limited, negative, the same word over and over repeated, or they're unclear technical terms. While the top 20 has a vocabulary full of descriptive words, a wide range, positive, clear and simple, and guest-friendly terms. A bottom 80 style may be passive, shy, little engagement in conversation, or aggressive, too much talking about themselves, or arrogant. Whereas a top 20 is assertive, with a balanced amount of social and professional conversation. Extraverbal communication is about how we sound and the feelings we put into our words. Extraverbal makes up 35% of the impression we make because it communicates the feelings behind the words we use. Feelings are hard to mask, and guests will always be more affected by our feelings than by our words. Guests will find us enjoyable or annoying just by how our words sound and feel. Bonding with guests requires us to become highly skilled at using the sound, tone, pitch, and pace of our voice. The tone of a bottom 80 may be sharp, cold, mean, uncertain, nervous, bored, depressed, uninterested, non-caring, angry, rude, versus the top 20. They're friendly and warm, caring, enthusiastic, interested, confident, calm, happy. Bottom 80s use a pitch and pace that might be too loud or soft, too fast or slow, or difficult to understand. Versus top 20s speak with a clear tone of voice at an even pace, and it's easy to understand. Nonverbal communication is a huge factor in the bonding experience because it accounts for 60% of the impressions we make. Even though our nonverbal communication is silent, it is always speaking loud and clear to our guests about who we are. And just like extraverbal communication, our nonverbals send messages to our guests about our feelings. Feelings are contagious, and guests catch our feelings from our nonverbal messages. They know that having a top 20 attitude of guest friendliness allows their self-expression and personal image to work for them instead of against them. Bottom 80s. Facial expressions, no smiles, no eye contact, might be frowning, versus the top 20 is always warm with a friendly smile, making eye contact. The body language of a bottom 80, they may be slouching or hunching, versus the top 20 stands with good posture, straight and confident. The appearance of a bottom 80 may be outdated with an undone hairstyle, non-professional clothing stained or wrinkled, versus the top 20 is fresh with appropriate makeup and fashionable professional clothing, clean and pressed. The personal hygiene of a bottom 80 may include unpleasant smells or body odor, bad breath, overpowering perfume, versus the top 20 smells pleasant with a pleasing aroma, soft fragrances, and breath. The key elements of bonding. Eye contact, smile and say hello. Easing the guest tension, greeting them this way will ease, or they'll sense our interest and focus their attention on us. A smile says, I'm a nice person and it's safe to be with me. Sincere and warm welcome. Welcoming the guest to the salon in a sincere way that warmly communicates, I am happy to see you. Acknowledging the guest's name. Most people love to hear the sound of their own name. Don't underestimate the bonding power of using a guest's name correctly and often. Start questions and statements using their name. Always introduce yourself with confidence by clearly stating your name. Shake hands, a socially acceptable and non-threatening way of making physical contact. It's a truly powerful piece of nonverbal communication. Extend your hand to the guest. Give directions. Don't assume the guests know what they are doing or where to go. The more informed guests are, the more comfortable they feel. Explain where you're going, what to expect, and what you're going to do before. It calms the guests down. Graciously invite the guests back to your station. We escort them. We don't race them. Walk next to them. Make pleasant small talk. Keep attention and focus completely on them. Offer them a safe place to put their belongings. Turn the chair to face them and invite them to take a seat and make themselves comfortable. A genuine compliment. Find something to compliment them on. Create yes momentum. Getting our guests to say yes to purchase more service and products start with creating yes momentum at the beginning of the appointment. Getting our guests to say yes to do little things like following us back to our station sets the tone for getting bigger yeses later on. Let's go back to my station. Would that be okay? As the guest gets into the yes momentum, they become ready to say yes to important questions like, would you like me to do that caller service for you today? Would you like to get started on the products we talked about today? These are examples of how we bust our opportunity to bond with guests when we fall into bottom 80. Nervous Nelly. Approaching guests in a timid, bashful, and shy manner causes guests to be unsure of our skills. Rumpled, shaggy, and scruffy. Crawling out of bed and showing up for work, looking disheveled, grubby, and ungroomed. It sends messages to our guests that we are messy and just don't care. Frequent frowner. Chronic non-smilers who always look like someone is holding a turd under their nose, unaware that their scowling face sends threatening, unfriendly messages to their guest. Crude, rude mood. Vulgar, mean, gross, insulting, and obscene social manners that many guests and coworkers find offensive. Funky smells. Totally unaware of those body odors that trigger a gag response from guests. Burps, too much perfume, BO, bad breath, gas, or all of the above. Bat out of hell. Racing out to greet a guest in a frenzied state. Blurting out their name followed by a meet me at the bowls, then rushing off, leaving the guest dazed and confused. Annoying tones. High-pitched, loud, shrill, piercing, agonizing, or irritating tones of voice that drive the guest crazy. Identify the bonding busters you can relate to the most. How do they bust your opportunity for bonding? Top 20s know that bonding with a new guest begins with the first 10 seconds of the greeting. Becoming highly skilled by practicing the following steps empowers us to quickly gain credibility and rapport with every guest we greet. Step 1 is the introduction. Make eye contact and smile. Say hello in a warm, sincere, and friendly voice. Step 2, use their name. Address guests by their name. Step 3, introduce yourself to new and referral guests. State your name clearly, shake the guest's hand, welcome the guest to the salon, and even offer him a beverage. Welcome, Carmen. My name's Sage. I'll be taking care of you today. It's nice to meet you. Can I get you something to drink? Step 4. Give directions. Direct guests by telling them what to expect and where you'll be taking them next. Escort them to your station while making pleasant small talk and avoiding rushing. Let them know where to put their personal belongings. Hold the styling chair for them as they sit, and keep attention completely on the guest. Rachel, let's go back to my station and we'll talk about what you'd like to do today. How does that sound? Here we are. Have a seat right here and make yourself comfortable. You can put your purse right over here. Or, for a repeat guest, Amanda, let's go back to my station. There are some new looks I'd love to talk to you about. In summary, bonding is the first step of the power wheel and is all about building credibility and rapport. But we must never confuse feelings of awkwardness with being phony or not being genuine with guests. Feeling awkward and clumsy as we begin practicing new bonding behaviors is perfectly normal because we always feel that whenever we're trying something the first time, it's clumsy and awkward. Building a great clientele demands we become highly skilled at top 20 bonding. Time for action. Which of the 3 parts of bonding are you best at? Which of the 3 do you want your guests to give you more of? What is your greeting like when you're in bottom 80 BS? What are some things that raise guest tensions? Describe a time when you made a negative first impression and your guest tension went through the roof. Describe a time when you made a positive first impression and reduced your guest's tension quickly. What are some of the negative judgments you have of guests when you're in bottom 80? What are some ways to remember to use the guest's name? What is your current verbal style? Passive, aggressive? What are some ways to become more skillful at verbal communication? Sound and tone. What would the following greeting sound like in a sharp or cold tone, in a nervous tone, a bored tone, and an annoyed or angry tone? Hi, my name is, and I'll be doing your hair today. Pitch and pace. What would the following greeting sound like? Too loud, too soft, too slow, too fast, and too hard to understand. Hi, my name is, and I'll be doing your hair today. When you are stuck in bottom 80, what do your extra verbals sound like? What kind of impression does someone make when they don't smile or make eye contact? Which nonverbal categories would you like to work on? Facial expression, body language, appearance, or personal hygiene? What kind of impact would those improvements have on your guests? Observe people around you in and out of the salon and look for ways they establish credibility and rapport. Describe how the people you observed established credibility. How have you sabotaged your own credibility? What are 10 great credibility builders you observed? Create your own top 20 greeting. Using the 4 steps to a top 20 greeting, write your own script. Introduction. Make eye contact and smile. Say hello in a warm, sincere, and friendly voice. Address guests by their name. State your name clearly. Shake hands. Welcome guests to the salon and offer them a beverage. Write your introduction for a new guest. Write your introduction for a repeat guest. Giving directions. Direct guests by telling them what to expect and where we will be taking them next. Let them know where to put their personal belongings and hold the styling chair for them as they sit. Write your giving directions script for a new guest. Write your giving directions script for a repeat guest. Thank you for joining us for e-learning with Jocie's Cosmetology School. This is the end of Lesson 5. We'll see you for Lesson 6.